Burger King, hit it.
Eat like a king who's on a budget. 3 tasty options, fries, drink, and nuggets. All for $5. Wait, that can't be right. Just confirm that that's the real price. BK, have it your way.
Welcome into LeatherBrainz, your host Slapdog, and I am joined with Alan Casanova Castro. It's just us today, and we're a little bit earlier than we usually are because we wanted to bring everybody the NFL news and the recap before the Monday Night Football game, which of course we're going to go over. Before we go over anything football related, have to give a shout out to our sponsor. So this episode of LeatherBrainz is brought to you by Burger King, home of the Whopper, the only sandwich in America bold enough to look you dead in the eyes and say, yeah, I'm a mess, but you still want me. So listen, quarterbacks fold, defenses collapse, coaches lie straight to your face, but the Whopper has never, ever let anybody down. It's got fresh lettuce, juicy tomatoes, pickles with purpose, baby, a flame-grilled patty hotter than McDaniel's seat in Miami, and you can customize it however you want. Unlike Sean Payton, who refuses to customize literally anything for Bo Nix. So the next time your team ruins your Sunday, pull into Burger King and treat yourself to the sandwich that actually executes in the red zone. Burger King. Have it your way, because your team sure doesn't. As I mentioned, your host, Slapdog, and I'm joined by Alan Casanova Castro. It has been a whirlwind of the last few weeks, as Alan kind of alluded to when he did the episode by himself last week. I got to tip my hat to you, Alan. You did an incredible job. So thankful to have you. I was out on some business, and Scotty is still learning how to manage his time being a father, so it's just us today.
Yep, he's being a daddy. I was happy to hold it down, but glad to have you back.
Yeah, glad to be back. Like I said, I think you did a wonderful job. So today, we're going to be going over a recap of all of the games that have happened thus far. We're going to give you our Monday night preview game. And then we're also going to give our Pab-Ass Bitch of the Week award. So excited to talk about all this. Alan, I'm ready to talk football. It's been a couple weeks. I have not been present, and I'm itching to talk football with you. So let's get started. We'll talk Falcons Seahawks. This game was this was a nothing burger of the week. It was 37-9 Seahawks Falcons. Cousins was in. Michael Penix has been out. Drake London's been out. Cousins threw for 2 picks. Darnold throws 3 touchdowns. This was a pretty much cruise control victory for the Seahawks in this one. So I wasn't surprised by this. I don't know if you were. I mean, I think we all kind of know where the Falcons are at and where the Seahawks are at. So any takeaways from this game that you want to talk about?
No, I just want to start. Anybody listening, I might have a delay, so if there's a weird pause between Slaps and I, my apologies. It's my technical difficulty of the day. This game, I mean, nothing to recap this game. I would have been shocked if the Seahawks would have lost. I think the one note I put for this game was that I know in the NFC that the Rams, the Eagles, the Packers, they're all going to get love in the postseason, and they're going to be on a lot of people's like, hey, I think they're going to win the AFC. You start doing your Super Bowl. Not that I think the Seahawks are going to get there, because I think they're very deficient in some areas, but I could see them going on a Commanders-esque run from the previous year. Like, I could see them sneaking up on a few teams and maybe taking some teams down that you're like, wait a second, who are the Seahawks? Why is this happening? I think the NFC could have it again, where you have another sneaky NFC title game appearance by a team you probably didn't think were going to be there. That's kind of what I thought of when I was watching this game.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up, because that was kind of what I think has been very reminiscent of the Seahawks this entire year, is very low expectations out of the gate, and they've exceeded those expectations every step of the way. So this kind of is reminiscent of that Commanders team from last year. And I don't know where the Seahawks go from here, because the Seahawks have been a mystery to me this entire year, because I didn't think Sam Darnold was a good quarterback. And I've been on the show prior to the season starting saying this was a huge mistake for them to move on from Geno, move on from DK. And so far it's worked out really well in their favor. So I do think they're kind of sneaky. I do think they're playoff bound. I think that's kind of a foregone conclusion at this point. But do you see him going all the way?
No.
Okay.
No, I like you said, Darnold is a big question mark. Yes, he can do it in the regular season. Maybe he can get you a postseason win, but I don't think when it comes down to it, when you got like the 4 remaining teams, that he can get you over the hump. And I think that's what happens. Things tighten up. Things get very small. You have fewer opportunities, and I wouldn't trust him in that situation. I think for the Seahawks, it gets interesting as they move forward next year. Like, what do they do with this position? Because they become an attractive landing spot for free agent quarterbacks. I could see a quarterback being like, wait, I get JSN, this defense, is starting to look good again. The offense, like there's a lot of core components here that we can utilize. So that's what's interesting for the Seahawks. I think if the Seahawks should be excited about that. For me, this team, it's just like, I kind of want to see what damage they can do in the playoffs because I think they can sneak out a win.
I think they could. I think going back to your quarterback conversation, in my opinion, I think they're pretty firmly going to move up forward with Sam Darnold, at least into the next season. And I think they should. I don't think Sam Darnold is a world beater. I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback, but he's usable in this system. He's usable for what they're trying to accomplish. And is he going to be, an upper echelon quarterback for the remainder of his career? No. But you might not need that. And I think that they're kind of showcasing that this year. So I'm interested to see how things play out in the offseason, but I do think Sam Darnold is going to stick around.
Yeah, agree.
Another team who has kind of surprised a lot of people, and unfortunately, I think that maybe the surprises are coming to an end, is the Colts. So the Jaguars win against the Colts 36-19, and this is not something that I think a lot of people were excited about. I know I certainly wasn't. This was tough for me to watch, and really the reason being is obviously it's Sam Darnold, or excuse me, Daniel Jones. Towards Achilles. And that really sucks. They just announced earlier today, actually, that Daniel Jones is out for the remainder of the season with an Achilles injury. So before we go down that avenue, I want to flip this. I've been an adamant Jaguars hater, and I think Liam Cohen, the head coach for the Jaguars, actually, he does listen to this show, and had kind of been asked about this in his post-game presser. And this was a quote directly from Cohen. He said, "I don't know if we'll ever get respect. That's the beauty of it. It ain't coming. You know that. It's not. And that's the beauty of it, and that's totally fine." And also say, he's not getting any respect from me, but at the very least, I'm glad that he's aware of it, and he knows that there's a lot of fans out there that are not, or fans or NFL fans that are not going to give him the respect that they deserve, because I don't think that they deserve respect, Alan. I really don't. As I've said many times, we have some members here on the LeatherBrainz team that are Trevor Lawrence truthers. I'm not one of them. And I will say this, he didn't play bad in this game. He went 17 for 30, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had an 82.7 QBR rating. But while he didn't play a bad game, it wasn't hard not to play a bad game when your opposition loses their starting quarterback, and now has to move on to their third string quarterback, Riley Leonard, who was he was like a walk-on he was a walk-on rookie this year. So then what becomes the game plan for the Jaguars? It's shut down Jonathan Taylor, because that's the focal point of this team, and it has been even with Daniel Jones there. And now he's not involved, so it's Jonathan Taylor. Yeah. Shut him down, you win the game. And that's kind of what I had seen coming as soon as Daniel Jones went out.
Yeah, I think for me, as soon as I saw him out, well, number one, it's like the Colts fans 3 weeks ago were like, oh shit, we could get the number 1 seed. Yeah. We might be hosting. We're probably going to go far. Like, we're definitely winning this division. And then you fast forward 3 weeks and you're like, we might not win the division. We are probably going to have to sneak in as a wild card, and we're not going to have our starting quarterback. And I think Daniel Jones brought a lot to the table with just his legs, and he knew how to play in that system. Did I think everything we saw at the beginning was going to happen later? No, I was very much against it. I thought it was just lightning in a bottle. They were just doing things that people were not expecting. The defenses were starting to figure out what to do against them, and then that was that. So I think for me, this is also for the Jaguars. Yeah, you're not going to get, going back to your earlier point, you're not going to get respect in the regular season. Nobody gets respect in the regular season. You have to earn it in the postseason. Everybody knows that. That is everybody wants to like crown people, like, see, he's arrived. Look, he's the best. Look, Daniel Jones this. Oh, Trevor Lawrence. Oh, no, it's the postseason. Can you win in the postseason? Can you get into the big dance? That's how everybody evaluates teams, quarterbacks, coaches. Everything is done in the postseason. So yes, while the regular season is nice, the fact of the matter remains that it is not as pressure packed as the postseason. There is not as much on the line as there is in the postseason. So it's, can you do this in the postseason against the best of the best? And I think the fortunate thing for across the AFC is the AFC is not super strong this year. You don't have that elite talent, I feel like, especially on the offensive side, threatening anybody in the AFC. There is no like elite offense in the AFC right now. And I think that's going to play into a lot of these teams' favor when we get into the playoffs, is that the AFC is kind of wide open. So the nice thing is, for Trevor Lawrence, for the Jaguars, for whoever, is when you do get into the dance this time around, you're not going to have Joe Burrow. You're not going to have Patrick Mahomes. You're going to have
It's interesting.
You're going to have Josh Allen, but he's probably going to have to go on the road. So it's like, I don't know. Now things get really interesting because you can sneak an AFC title in here where I think maybe your quarterback isn't a quote unquote AFC title caliber quarterback. Does that make sense? Like, you're going to see guys getting crowned with things that you're like, I don't know if he really is. So like if Trevor Lawrence made it to the AFC title game, you're like, oh, okay. So now what do we do?
Yeah. Well, and I don't think
you may not even get it then is what I'm saying is what's interesting because of the aforementioned lack of
look at Jalen
top-heavy
Hurts.
Teams. Yeah.
Look at Jalen Hurts. I mean, there are still a lot of people clamoring saying that Jalen Hurts isn't a top upper echelon quarterback. He was a Super Bowl MVP. In every Super Bowl that Jalen Hurts has played in, he's played incredible. So
he could have been the MVP in 2 Super Bowls.
Could have had he won the first one. So like, you have that side of the spectrum where there are still people that are not fully bought into that narrative, and then you have someone like Trevor Lawrence, who I think is a much worse quarterback than Jalen Hurts. You shouldn't get the accolades, and postseason's going to tell.
Yeah, and here's another thing I'll say. I had a family member once. They came over, and it was like last year, beginning of this year, I can't remember what it was, and they said the Chiefs are overrated. And I was like, you can't be over or underrated because there's no rankings. You are kind of what you are. You either win or you lose, and that's how it goes. And so I think it's funny for like Liam Cohen to come out and say that because it's like, what respect do you want? Do you want everybody to just be like, oh my God, best head coach, best quarterback ever, and everybody just to agree on that? Because if you're on social media, you're never going to get that. If you're looking for just like flat out public opinion on your team or your teams or whomever, you're never going to get that. That's kind of the beauty of this is it's all opinion. Like and
that's what makes it fun.
You're gonna
we're sitting here having conversation, and a lot of it is opinion because that's it's all expectation and it's all opinion and it's all thought about individuals and players and teams. I will say this about Liam Cohen though. I was pretty pessimistic about him as a head coach and was not really expecting much. And I do think he's the right answer for the Jaguars. I really do. And I think that the record and the way that the Jaguars are winning games is pretty indicative of that because I think it's larger to do with his coaching than it is to do with the players on the field. And so I will give flowers to him. I do think that he is a much better head coach than what the Jaguars have found in the past 5+ years. So
was it that opening press conference? The Duval. Yeah, that sounded like such a weak.
Yeah, and Jameis Winston.
That guy needs to get punched.
Our Lord and Savior Jameis was actually he was on bye this week, so he was I want to say it was a Fox analyst, I don't know if it was a broadcast analyst, but he was an analyst. I think it was at Fox. It wasn't one of the major networks, and he was asked about that, and he goes, "There was no gumption there." He's like, "He needs to say it demanding," and then Jameis gave some examples of how he should have said Duval. So they were talking about this game. I just thought it was interesting, and it's still being brought up as it should be because it's very awkward.
Funny.
I want to go, before we move on to the next game, I want to stop and just talk about Daniel Jones for a second, because obviously, as I mentioned, tore his Achilles, he's done for the year, sucks. But does this injury change the trajectory of what we think will happen with Daniel Jones going into the offseason and into 2026 in your mind? Because I think, for me, Daniel Jones was firmly cemented as they were going to sign him. Does that, and I think you had maybe agreed with that as far as like that's what was most probable for the Colts. Do you still see that playing out, or do you have some concerns there now?
Listen, I mean, you tear your Achilles. How old is Daniel Jones?
I want to say he's 28.
28, yeah.
I mean, 27, 28.
He can still come back. It's just like a lot of what he brought to the table was mobility.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how he's going to come back after that, after an Achilles injury. Like, is he going to have that same? Is he going to trust it? Listen, he's going to be out for a year. Like, he's not going to be back for the 2026 start. So,
well, that begs the next question.
You're going to have to figure something else out now and then see if he's even ready. So if you are the Colts, people thought he was having a hairline. He had like a hairline fracture or something that he was dealing with, and now he has a torn Achilles. I don't know. This really muddies things up for them.
Well, this gets even more interesting because I was in the camp that Anthony Richardson was a great trade candidate for any teams that are looking to get a quarterback on the cheap and try and develop. Do they hold Anthony Richardson for another year and maybe roll him out to start the season and see how things go? Because he was someone that I think a lot of people were saying, hey, you can go get this guy for a 4th, 5th round pick, and maybe, you know, Mike Tomlin was a one that was very interested in obtaining Richardson this offseason before the season began and everything that had transpired. And so, also say, do the Colts now look at Anthony Richardson and say, hey, we're going to keep this guy around for another season because we kind of need him at this point?
I'm trying to look up what we feel like the quarterback market's even going to look like, because they may have to.
They might, and that's kind of where I'm at.
It may be the most cost-effective measure for them to keep this nucleus together and maybe bring in some additional pieces and stay competitive. Because the AFC South is going to be wide open. You know, the Texans are up and down. You know, obviously the Colts had a good window and then it shut here this year to try to obviously they can still win it. I'm saying shut because I still think the Texans are going to come back and win this division.
Sure,
but I think honestly, if I were a GM or I was playing GM, the move I would make is exactly what you said. Let's put in Anthony Richardson. Let's keep Daniel Jones. Let's let him rehab, and let's bring him back in and see where we're at next year, because they are on a good trajectory this year, and this really slams the door shut for them. Because now, probably not, you know, even if they make the playoffs, which is adding to my AFC playoff take of being super weak, is like they're just going to be a doormat for whoever. So that's good though. You get some playoff experience for your team. You know, kind of understand how things work. That's good for the coaching staff. That's good for everybody. But I think I agree with what you were kind of lining up there. It's probably the most cost effective, because I don't even know what they would have to go spend to get one, or what they'd be able to bring in the free agency to like be worth it. It almost makes sense to just stay.
It does. And so sign Daniel Jones to another 1-year deal. You still have AR on his rookie contract. Let's run it back one more year and see where if Daniel Jones doesn't look the same, then it's a pretty easy out if you sign him to another 1-year deal. So then it's like, okay, we've figured it out. We need to figure out a quarterback situation. So that's kind of what I see playing out. Obviously, time will tell, but that's kind of what I envision happening for this team moving forward. And it sucks because the Colts were fun this year, but now Anthony Richardson is still on IR, so it looks like probably, unless they do something else, Riley Leonard is just going to be the starter for the rest of the season, and that's not
good for Riley
that we want to see. Yeah, I mean, good for him, not good for NFL community, because I don't want to watch that.
Nope.
All right, Bengals Bills. Alan, this game was like the game of the week, man.
I was so excited to watch this.
So was I, because obviously the Bills won this game 39-34. It was a snow game, which I'm a huge fan of. I love snow games.
Yeah.
And so it had the snow. It had 2 high-powered quarterbacks. And it really honestly had a lot of optimism for the Bengals as far as what they were doing, and how, I call it lackadaisical, call it not doing what you need to do, is from a Bills point of view. The Bills haven't been great these last few weeks, and it's been kind of a muddling Bills team. And the Bengals, with Joe Burrow back in the fold, and even prior to Joe Burrow, were still kind of frisky. But now that Joe Burrow's back, they were looking good. But, you know, I think that their playoff aspirations were still in play for this one, and now they're not, which kind of sucks to see. You might have a differing opinion on that as a Chiefs fan, but...
No, I think... I was rooting for the Bengals. I wanted to see this storyline play out too, where I wanted the Texans and the Bengals to come back and win their divisions after kind of being afterthoughts, you know, a few weeks back. Burrow and team started off. Well, listen, it comes down again to the Bengals defense is just hot ass. Mm-hmm. Like the Bills offense was, but like if the Bills were the Bills of yesteryear, they would have put up like 50 some points in this game. They fumbled at the goal line. They had some drives that sputtered out, and they still ended up putting up 39 on this Bengals defense. And I think this just goes to underscore where the Bengals are still at, even with Joe Burrow, is that Joe Burrow has to be perfect. And in the second half, throwing those 2 picks was less than ideal. But, you know, he's trying to go out and win a game and push that ball down the field. So I don't like totally fault him for those, because you're trying to attack, and you have to score with that defense on your back. So it just changes your mentality. You know, you want to press it just a bit more. The snow game was sick. I fucking love snow games. It's just the best. Like, guys can't really cut. They're like tiptoeing around trying to cut is the absolute best. And then you have, you know, Josh Allen just going full steam ahead, and, you know, as he is, like, nobody's going to try to like step in front of that in the snow. Nobody wants any part of that. Again, I think the storyline here is the Bengals defense. I think if the Bengals had even a mid-tier defense, I think they walk away with this game pretty handily, because Burrow to start, I think they scored on their first 3 possessions. They scored touchdowns on their first 3 possessions, and then from then on it was just kind of like pitter patter, and then the Bills went on these long drives. But it was actually great. I love watching top quarterbacks with teams kind of going at it. It's just you know, unfortunately for the Bengals in this one, I think this shuts their door They had to have this one, especially with the Steelers winning against the Ravens. Like the Steelers are now kind of pulling away. I think it all but cements that the Bengals, are pretty much out of this one.
Yeah, which, hey, could be good for their draft picks because they desperately need to fix their defense. So this kind of maybe could help them reload in that area. But I want to pivot over, and I really want to talk about the Titans and the Browns. And
let's do it.
So it was announced today by head coach Kevin Stefanski that Shedeur Sanders is to remain the starter for the rest of the season. So I'm going to say this. Alan, I know it's the Titans, and the Titans across the board, offense, defense, special teams, are just a freaking dumpster fire. That's what the Titans are. And the Titans ended up winning this game, which maybe says a little bit about the Browns. The Titans won 31-29. But in my mind, Alan, Shedeur Sanders, I think, is a better quarterback than Dylan Gabriel. And it's a small sample size. I get that it's the Titans, but Stefanski came out and said, hey, Shedeur's going to be our guy for the rest of the season. Sanders in this one went 23 for 42, 364 yards. He threw 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. His QBR was 56.1. After seeing Sanders over these last few weeks, what are your thoughts on him, Alan?
I was happy to come talk about this one. I think I texted this one in a different chat, not ours, but I think he looked good. And I know it's the Titans. Listen, everybody's going to shut it down because they're like, but it was the Titans. But it's still an NFL team. I mean, they're still trying to win that game. They were very obviously trying to win that game as they did win the game. They weren't a doormat. They were pressing and doing what they needed to do. And I thought it was almost like in this game, I felt like if they didn't have Sanders, they wouldn't have been as close as they were.
I would agree.
And some of the coaching decisions the Browns made late, like taking Shedeur out on that 2-point conversion, I was like, what? Why are you doing that? They're in a rhythm. You don't want to disrupt the rhythm. It's not like, I don't know, maybe they practice that, who knows? But to me, it's almost like just let him see this game through. He's seeing it well, so just let him do it. And I agree wholeheartedly. And I thought, even if you rewind tape to us the beginning of the season, I think we pretty much said the same. At some point, Shedeur is going to come in and he just see the rest of this thing out, just so they know what they have. I think this is kind of playing out good for the Browns. Now, I don't trust the organization to make the right choices, so I don't know what they're going to do with it with all this information. But I mean, he looks like he's earned the right to lead this team for the foreseeable future, especially with what you're paying him. It just makes sense.
Well, and I got my crystal ball out for this one, and I will share with you my findings in the crystal ball. But before we do that, the last thing on Shedeur Sanders, are you buying any of this narrative that has been spun around in NFL circles? Because I got to ask, the NFL, there's a lot of chatter in NFL spaces about the NFL was trying to tank Shedeur's career due to his father, due to the cockiness that is Shedeur Sanders, et cetera, et cetera. Are you buying any of that after sitting here watching Shedeur play for the last few weeks? As far as do you think there's any truth to that narrative at all?
I think you could, yeah. I mean, if you go back to the Colin Kaepernick stuff, which is more political and that stuff, there was very obviously, listen, they're all working under the same business. We look at these owners as independent entities, but listen, they're all trying to make the same dollar. They all have the same TV deals. They're all trying to push their team forward. They're all looking to increase their bottom line. And I don't doubt that maybe there was some of that being shared amongst owners where they're staying away from him, stay away from him. He's this, he's that. But NFL teams do that with everybody. I don't think it was an overarching conspiracy by the NFL to not have Shedeur. Shedeur Sanders, if you look at what happens to that stadium and to people's attention to the NFL when Shedeur Sanders steps on the field, I think the NFL would want that. They wouldn't be shying away from that. They'd be embracing that. And so I think it's you can't have on one hand saying, oh, we need Taylor Swift because it'll boost our ratings. But on the other hand, the NFL doesn't want Shedeur Sanders because I very much think they would. But I do think that the owners obviously talk.
Yeah.
And I think that is the quote unquote conspiracy of I don't want to draft him. But I mean, what are you going to do about that? That's in any business in America. If you have two leaders of two companies saying, I'm not hiring this one guy, that's just how the market works. So I think we know Shedeur's come off as immature. I know he's said some things and done some things that probably turn some people off, which is probably his undoing, but I'm happy that he's getting to play. It's not about that stuff right now. Now it's just about him playing. So
sure.
I mean, I'm all for it at this point.
Okay. Well, I did, as I mentioned, I looked into the crystal ball, and this is kind of this is what I saw in the crystal ball. So there's a lot of talk about should Kevin Stefanski be on the hot seat, and what is the trajectory of this team moving forward. And I think I've kind of seen what I think is going to play out here.
Okay.
So Shedeur, very obviously, as we have mentioned now a plethora of times, is going to start the rest of the season, which I think is good. I think that's good for him. I think that's good for the development. But the question then becomes, what about next season? What about draft capital? What about, the future of your team? And I think this is the way that this shakes down. And if I was the general manager of the Browns, this is what I would do. Deshaun Watson is still on roster.
Just gonna say
Deshaun Watson is still on roster. And look, Deshaun Watson has not looked great since like the 2018 Texans or whatever year he was. Like he's ever since arriving at the Browns, his suspension, everything that's gone on with him has not looked great. But he's still on roster. He's not going to play this year. And so I think next year, I think the crystal ball showed me they're going to roll Deshaun Watson out at least to start this season. Shedeur Sanders will be the QB2. Gabriel will be the QB3. In the event that Watson shits the bed for the first 4 or 5 weeks, they're going to roll Sanders back out and see, can you get us any more success than Watson gave us? In the event that that's a yes, okay, then Shedeur has cemented himself as the starting quarterback for the Browns, and they start trying to build around him. In the event that that's a no, they blow the whole thing up. Stefanski goes, your quarterback's room gets retooled, you go find a head coach, and you let him draft a rookie quarterback. So you don't have the situation where kind of the Giants found themselves in this year, where Brian Daboll drafted Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart looked great. Brian Daboll got fired, and now the future of the Giants is kind of, well, what are they going to do moving forward? So if I was the general manager of the Browns, that's how I would play this situation. Go get yourself a wide receiver. Go get yourself some tools to help with your defense is great. Your offense is really struggling, and that's where the problem is for the Browns. And so see what you've got, and then if it doesn't work, I think you blow the whole thing up and move on. And that's kind of what the crystal ball shows.
So I was digging in because you mentioned Deshaun. I was digging into the cap numbers because it's always interesting because you never know. We say the salary cap's a myth.
It is.
But for Deshaun Watson, via over the cap, Watson's salary cap numbers for the Browns have been 9.4 in 2022, 19.1 in 2023, and 27.9 in 2024. And it was $36 million this year, which if you look at the average for starters, that's like about on par. You're just paying like more top dollar for a guy that's not playing. Next year, that salary cap hit goes to a record $80.7 million for Deshaun Watson, who may or may not even be playing on a, what was it, 200 and how much was his total?
40, 250, 240 somewhere?
$230 million fully guaranteed contract. So regardless of what happens to the deferred money, he is on their cap sheet until 2031.
So why cut him?
Yeah, there's literally no reason to, especially if they don't have anybody, like unless there's roster space that they absolutely are dying to need, there literally isn't a reason to cut him, because even if they cut him during the offseason, they save $0 on the cap hit. They are getting the full hit. You might as well roll him out there and just see,
let him get hit.
Or be the most expensive backup in the history of the NFL. I think that's where the Browns are trending. And to me, say what you want about him, but like the allegations against Deshaun Watson, he's a scumbag. I think the Browns deserve every bit of this that they're in with this contract. Like, this is just, should have never have signed him to this, should have never have signed him at all. He should be sitting on the couch. And the fact that you thought that he was going to come resurrect your organization, you pretty much should suffer through this through 2031. But what that sucks is this is probably going to come at the detriment of Deshaun, or out of Shedeur Sanders, because now, you'd want to line up some bigger pieces to put around him to see what you can do, and you can't. Now you're screwed. So now Shedeur is going to get unfairly judged for whatever, right or wrong with the talent he has around him, and he's just going to be hamstrung by that. But I think, kind of going back, he's shown enough to stay there. But it's just funny to me now that the Browns are just stuck in this hellhole. That is Deshaun
they made
Watson's
their bed,
contract.
now they got to sleep in it, and it's all because of Deshaun Watson. So that's what I see playing out, and I think, given the following the money, even though the cap space is not real, I think it makes sense. So,
right.
All right, let's talk about the Commanders here for just a moment. I know we kind of brushed on them at the beginning of the show as far when we were talking about the Seahawks, and we kind of compared the Seahawks this year to the Commanders last year. This game was rough for the Commanders. They lost to the Vikings 31-0, and not only did they lose this game, but they also lost a lot of players in this game. Namely Zach Ertz. We'll start with him.
That was disgusting.
That sucked so bad. So for anybody who did not know or see it, Zach Ertz tore his ACL, and his reaction right after it happened was very tough to watch. I think the unfortunate reality here is that Ertz's career is now over, and I think that he knew that. I think that based on his reaction right after it had happened, you saw a man that that knew it was done, and not like, I mean, he's 35 years old. He was still killing it as a 35-year-old tight end, but Father Time is no joke.
Well, and I mean, no father of any, not even father ligaments was going to hold that together. Just based on how that hit, that was ugly.
Yeah, and it sucks. I like Zach Ertz a lot, and well wishes on a speedy recovery, but I think his career is now over. So that really sucked to watch. Yeah. And while we're discussing injuries, there was another one, and this was a pretty big one. Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, Alan, he left the game early due to re-injuring his non-throwing elbow, which is what had kept him sidelined for the last few weeks prior to this game. There were a lot of people that were furious that the Commanders would roll him out to start this game after their season is already over. Do you share that same sentiment?
I thought they should have sat him. He's obviously dealing with quite a bit. There's no upside in playing him.
I agree with you there.
Yeah, I guess that's what it comes down to. What's the upside in playing him? It's not like he needs the reps. You know what he can do. You've seen him perform in pressure situations. He knows how to run the offense. He's just not healthy. The team is not healthy. And like to roll the future out of your organization, I'm telling you, it's the same RG3 parallels from like them trying to keep putting tape and glue on RG3 and rolling him out there is kind of happening to Jayden Daniels. They keep just rolling him out they don't let him rest. And that's what happened to RG3. Eventually just blew out his knee, and then he was never the same. And I think that's what makes Jayden Daniels so spectacular is his legs and his mobility, but you got to keep him healthy. And if you can't keep him healthy, then sit him until you're ready to.
It's tough because I understand. I get it. I understand the RG3 comparisons, and I actually had this conversation with a friend of ours yesterday, and he was like, "What are they doing?" Which I agree with. Why would you roll him out there? If he's not 100% healthy, your season's over. This is your franchise quarterback. What are you doing? Silly.
Agreed. 100%.
However, from the RG3 comparisons, the only reason that we're comparing these two individuals is because they both played for the Commanders / Redskins. So I don't think that's a fair comparison. And what I mean by that is this is a completely different coaching staff. It is a completely different regime. I don't know if the GM is the same, but or the owner, but yep. I just don't think you can sit here and compare them. I think it's similar situations, which is fair to compare.
I think that's what it is. I think that's what it is. It's similar. You have an up and coming quarterback who shows a lot of promise really early on, deals with injuries, can't get over the injuries. He keeps playing through injuries, and then it all comes to an abrupt stop when he again suffers a really traumatic one.
Yeah,
that's where we're at.
I don't think we can, say this is the Commanders doing, and this is the a tale's old as time as the Commanders as far as them not being able to do what they need to do. So I just wanted to preface by stating that, and then I want to talk about the Commanders' season thus far because I'm not surprised by this. I'm not happy to say this. We don't root for injuries, but
I think the outcome, no, but I think the injuries, surprising.
I'm not surprised by the injuries because this team, and I said this before the season started.
Yeah, you did.
The Commanders, on paper, to start the season, were a great team. The issue with the Commanders is they have the oldest roster in the NFL, and typically what you see happen is when players get older, they start to become more injury prone because, I'm 30 years old. My body is not the same as it was when I was 21. I can promise you that.
Brother.
And so that's a piece of this where I said, if they can stay healthy, I think they're going to be a really good team. But I'm concerned that they'll be able to stay healthy because this team is older. And that's what we've seen. And so I'm not surprised that the season kind of shook out the way it did for the Commanders. But I'm curious as to your thoughts. Is there optimism going into next year? Because you would presume that they're going to have kind of an easier schedule again next year. You're going to have to retool some things and hopefully get a little bit younger than you were this year. And, injuries, while we can't predict them, the age barometer certainly kind of helped predict some of this happening. Is there some optimism going into next year in your mind for the Commanders?
I think if you're a Washington fan, or if from a front office perspective, I look at this as like a 2-year plan. You caught lightning in a bottle 1 year. I don't think that was like they built that to sustain success. You just caught lightning in a bottle. That wasn't like we're building a program or dynasty for the future, like where we can be perennial contenders, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure.
So I would almost look at it as like a 2-year plan. I would get Daniels healthy, make sure we're all good and square there. I would start to jettison some of these older folks and then start to get younger and focus next year getting maybe the younger talent or younger guys that maybe we're flirting with rosters on other teams to bring them in and get some just solid pieces around Jaden Daniels that he can grow and develop with next year. And then look at the year after that as like, okay, now we should start seeing dividends on some of these plans coming to fruition. Because I don't think you're going to be able to turn around in 1 year, because they are, like you said, they do have a ton of pieces that are quite old, and they need to figure out like what the direction of this team is moving forward. Like, how do they want to play this? And I think you get those pieces in next year, and you have to draft well. That's the other thing. Now you got to keep drafting well, because then that payday for Jaden is going to be coming. So if he is it, then you want to try to strike. So let's get maybe some more veteran, like younger veteran playmakers and draft well and look at it as like a 2-year plan. But I think it's not like not looking forward to next year, but I wouldn't look to be like, okay, next year we're going to be back. We're going to be flirting with the NFC title game again. I don't think that's what it is. I think it's, they have to seriously think about rebuilding. Otherwise they're going to keep yo-yoing this into we're hurt. Now you don't have anything to show for it, and you got to pay Jaden Daniels.
Sure. On the flip side of the ball here for the Vikings, I want to start by saying, look, I get it. The Commanders' defense is decimated with injury. Commanders' defense is nothing to squawk at. My biggest takeaway from this game, to be quite honest with you, was J.J. McCarthy, which is not something I thought I would say, to be quite honest with you. I mean, he went 16 for 23, 163 yards, 3 touchdowns, had a 75.2 QBR rating, and I'm gonna give my piece on this, and you tell me if I'm wrong or right. You keep me in my lane here.
I got you, brother.
I appreciate that. J.J. McCarthy has not been good all season long. He is actually and it's really put for Vikings fans, for NFL fans who are speculating on the situation, has put the Vikings in quite a pickle, because I have been a firm believer in Kevin O'Connell's the quarterback whisperer. Kevin O'Connell's the guy that is going to be able to get the best out of his quarterbacks. And so they roll in they had Sam Darnold last year, who was not supposed to be the starter, and revitalized his career with the Vikings.
Yep.
They also had Daniel Jones on roster after he was cut by the Giants. And, obviously just was Achilles last week, but he was a usable quarterback. And then you have J.J. McCarthy, who is now the starting quarterback for this season and has been in and out with injury and has not looked good. This game right here, Alan, is why J.J. McCarthy should be starting the rest of the season. And I think that last week's game with Brosmer, I think his name was, the quarterback for the Vikings, that was atrocious. Well, having to watch that was so bad, but I think it was good for the Vikings. And what I mean by that is now Vikings fans have nothing to stand on to say, why is Carson Wentz not out there? Why is so-and-so not out there? Like, put anybody else out there and see if we like this now. There's no more arguments.
I said that last week. I said the best thing about this game was that J.J. McCarthy is not the worst quarterback.
Yeah, which was very accurate.
Now you know this. Okay, there is worse. This could get worse, everybody.
It could very well get worse. And so because of that, in J.J. McCarthy coming in and actually looking not bad against a not a very formidable defense, what that does is that builds his confidence. And it also gives the Vikings some more film to look at, some more studying to say, can we do something with this guy? And I get that this is a small window. We need to see this play out for the rest of the season. But the Vikings really need to figure out, is J.J. McCarthy going to be our future or not? And we're in year 2. This is really year 1 because he didn't play last year. So that muddies the waters up too. But I think that at the very least, and Kevin O'Connell, I think, had even stated this, they're going to bring in a veteran quarterback this offseason to compete with J.J. McCarthy to see what can we do, where are we at, and where's his development at. But I think a game like this was really, really great to showcase, okay, did J.J. come out and look like a top quarterback in the league? Absolutely not. But do we have the building blocks to be able to improve this guy? And if we see that continue throughout the rest of the season, even in these, they won this game, even in losses, if they were to lose future games, was it because of J.J. McCarthy or was it because of other factors? And I think he's under a very analytical eye right now, but I think this was a really good takeaway for him in my mind.
Yeah, I think so, because he didn't do anything to hurt the team. I don't think he did anything. I thought his first couple possessions in that first half were really telling. That's where I thought he really looked good. And then they kind of took their foot off the gas and then just leaned on the Commanders and ran the ball the rest of the time. They didn't ask him to go out there and try to win it with his, with his arm, which is, we've talked about this. That's not JJ McCarthy's thing. From Michigan, his thing is if he has a solid running game, a good defense, he'll make those play action passes. He knows where to go with the ball in those situations. But if you're asking him to just drop back and like read all these different coverages and look at, go through a progression tree of like 4 different wide receivers and go win you the game like that, I don't think that's ever going to be on the table for him. And I think are the Vikings going to be okay with that moving forward? Because that's how they're going to have to stylistically shape their offense. And is like Justin Jefferson going to be okay with that? Are your stars going to be okay with that? Because you want to keep them happy too. You want to be able to give him the ball.
Well, and that's the other piece, because now there's some like, do they trade Justin Jefferson? And I'm like, are we seeing a Stephon Diggs situation happen again?
It's happening again. Maybe just back to the Bills. They just keep doing this. The Vikings will find the good wide receiver, go give him to the Bills, and then move on.
Yeah. So Yeti, one of the team members on the show, he commented on the show and said, also, this Commanders front office has only drafted one all-pro type player since they took over a few years ago. The rest of their picks have either been cut, waived, or benched, which is true. And then Yeti followed up and said, Kevin O'Connell let the whole quarterback guru bullshit hype get to his head. JJ is gone. I'm assuming JJ McCarthy and not Justin Jefferson.
I think he meant Justin Jefferson.
Oh, Justin. Yeah.
I think, he's got him. Yeah, he's got him at Justin Jefferson on that one. I think so. Kevin O'Connell does get the most out of the quarterback, but the quarterback has to have something. Like, you can't get the most out of nothing. Like,
correct.
All right, I'm going to get the most out of you, but you suck ass. So it's going to be really hard to get any. Like, maybe this is as good as JJ will actually. Maybe this is actually we would have seen. Sorry, I cut out a second. Maybe this is as good as we would have seen from JJ's. Like, throwing a few picks, like not losing the game. Maybe that's his ceiling. I don't know. Maybe he actually is getting the most out of him.
Maybe, but confidence for a quarterback role, confidence is such an important thing that I don't think a lot of people really like take into account when you're just sitting on the couch on Sundays. But it's like, you have to have confidence, because you can make a read, and if you don't have the confidence to make the throw that might be a little bit risky of a throw, you're never going to progress. And you take those risks, and I think confidence is such an important thing for him to try and build off of. And I think that was my biggest takeaway from this game. So
yeah.
All right.
They just need more complimentary football out of
They
him.
do. We got to give a shout out to our sponsor.
This combo meal's got combinations. Make this thing your own creation. Entree, drink, and choice of sides. Oh, and it's free to swap fries. BK, have it your way.
Today's show is sponsored by Burger King. Yes, the Burger King, the only kingdom still functioning properly in 2025. While your favorite NFL team is out there committing crimes against football, Burger King is out here delivering wins, baby. Flame-grilled goodness, fries that never fumble, and a Whopper that performs better under pressure than Joe Burrow in a snowstorm. Hungry? Good. Because Burger King has deals so good, they'd get fined for competitive imbalance in the league if the league had any integrity left. So head to Burger King today, grab a Whopper, a crispy chicken sandwich, or whatever your comfort meal is after your team gets embarrassed on national television. Burger King, where the only meltdown you'll see is cheese, not your quarterback. All right, let's keep this train rolling, Alan. We are going to quickly discuss Mike McDaniels, the head coach for the Dolphins. So, Dolphins win this game 34-10 against the Jets. This game in totality was basically the Jets. I mean, lost like they always do. But the Dolphins leaned on the run game, and they did really well. They ran for 239 yards to the Jets' 60 yards. So I don't really have anything to take away from the Jets. I think the Jets are the Jets. They're shit. They're dog water. It is what it is. But really, I want to talk to you, and I'm glad that we're able to have this conversation today, because you and I kind of went back and forth on this conversation about Mike McDaniels. And you had said this: if the Dolphins find a way to kind of recover, quote unquote, recover the rest of their season, does Mike McDaniel keep his job?
Yeah.
Are you still very much in that camp? Because it's kind of coming. I mean, they beat the Bills. They're winning games now. Like, what's going on, and what is your thoughts?
I kind of wish I would have cashed a ticket in for this, because I didn't put any like projection on this, like win total from that point when we talked about this.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 6-7 right now. You know who else is 6-7?
I think it.
The Ravens.
The Ravens, yeah.
The Chiefs.
I was gonna say, I think the Chiefs might be in there.
So you have multiple ways to get to 6-7. Like obviously
6-7.
6-7. I know. I should be bringing the kids in here.
Sorry,
I feel ashamed for even doing that.
I feel ashamed for doing that too.
It's okay. I apologize to everybody listening that you had to hear that.
Sorry.
But seriously, I think it is still in play. And I know we've talked. So for those of you that may or not have been listening previously, what the theory was that weeks ago, McDaniels was just the Walking Dead. This was it for him. He was just going to finish out the season and they were going to let him go. And at that point, they had 2 wins, and then they beat the Bills. And then now they're on this 4-game winning streak, which concludes with the Steelers, Bengals, Bucks, and Patriots. My theory is, and I think we're still on track, that is if he can win now these 4 games, I think if he goes 3-1 in these remaining 4 games and finishes the season at 9-8, I think he keeps his job.
What if he loses? What if it's 2-2? Do you think he's out?
Then I think he loses it. I think he's got to get to 9 now. I think he's got to get up there and get like just missed the playoffs, because then I think they're like, oh fuck, we were kind of close actually.
Yeah, which they kind of are, which is crazy.
Yeah, and again, that's more indicative of how bad the AFC is this year. But because that's not like repeatable over time. But I think you're gonna be like, if you're the front office, like, all right, do we want to go blow this up and find a new coach, or we were kind of fucking close to the playoffs? I think he's got to get to 9. I think 8 iffy. Definitely if he only wins one more, if he wins only one more, he's definitely out. But I think if he can get to that 9, 10 all but seals it. Like if he wins out somehow, and the end of these games, I don't know how interested some of these teams are going to be. The Bengals might be out in a few weeks, which, Burrow's back, so he's going to want to play. So that one's going to be dangerous. But then you end with the Bucks and Patriots. So it's like Patriots could be resting their starters, depending. Yeah. And then, the Steelers this week, they're not that great either. So the Dolphins could win it. So I think we're on track. We'll keep our fingers on the pulse, but this was a solid step in the right direction of like, I think he can do this.
I think it's starting to shape. I didn't believe you when you said this. I was like, I believe the narrative that you were spinning as far as saying like, if he wins out, if he does all this, like he could keep his job. I believed that. I didn't believe it was possible. And then they beat the Bills, and I was like, wait a minute, like what is this? Can he? And if he does, I'm firmly in the camp that I think 8 wins in, like, there's an argument. 9, I think you're good. 10, obviously you're keeping your
10,
job.
he's got it. Yeah, because that means he won out.
Yeah, it's going to get interesting. It is going to get interesting. We'll see. Another thing that's pretty interesting here is Baker Mayfield struggling since returning from the bye week? Because the Bucks lose to the Saints of all teams, one of the worst teams in the NFL. Bucks lose 20-24 against the Saints. What's going on with the Bucks, man? Up until their bye week, which they had in week 9, they were 6-2. Since their bye week, the Bucks have gone 1-4. And the teams that they've lost to post-bye were Patriots, Bills, Rams, and the Saints, and they beat the Cardinals. So congratulations. I think we're both firmly in the camp that Baker Mayfield is awesome. We love Baker Mayfield.
Yep.
But is this just a middling team that it loses to the good teams and maybe some of the bad ones like the Saints, and then they win against the bad teams? Like, where are you looking at the Bucks? Because I thought they were one of the best teams in their entire conference, and then I see something like this, and it's like, I know it's any given Sunday, but they've kind of fallen off a little bit as of late.
Yeah, and I know he got that shoulder injury against the Rams, which he was knocked out and didn't get to finish that game, but they were getting blown out. I don't know how much of that is still lingering as well. Like, does that stopping him from being able to play at that high level? But if you go look at the wins they have on the seasons, like you said, Cardinals, Saints, 49ers, Seahawks, Jets, Texans, Falcons. That's it. That's their wins. And so
kind of like
they've literally lost against every quote unquote good team, right? Eagles, Lions, Patriots, Bills, Rams. And then the Saints one is just a stinker. And I would say the good thing for them is they end with the Falcons, Panthers, Dolphins, Panthers. So you have a chance to shut the door on the division.
They play the Panthers twice, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, they get the Panthers twice.
That gets really interesting because, the Bucs right now, they are still leading the NFC South, but the Panthers are right behind them. They both have a 7-6 record. So both those games are very important for the way that the seeding is going to play out as far as how the South shakes out.
Yeah, I don't think too many listeners or people across the NFL landscape were clamoring for an epic NFC South, showdowns with 2, 7, and 6. But if the storylines for this will be super interesting because one team will play themselves in and out of the playoffs just based on how a 3-week stretch goes. And so, even as dire, I guess, as it seems for the Bucs, because they're kind of seemingly on some sort of free fall. Like they have the opportunity over the last month to like right this ship, put it to bed, and then be in the playoffs. But I do think it's Baker's injury. I think that's limiting them more than we think.
I mean, I think it's something's got to be doing it, but I am concerned. Even if the Bucs make it to the playoffs, I think maybe they are just kind of an upper echelon team in the NFC South because the competition is not as great. But then I think in comparison to the rest of the teams of the NFL, I think they're kind of just a middling of the pack team at this point, which is concerning. And I think part of the injury is there too. On the opposing side of this, I got to ask you about Tyler Shuck. Is he a longer-term solution for the Saints than perhaps anybody had thought going into this season? I mean, he's 26-year-old rookie quarterback, and he hasn't been playing bad. He did have 2 rushing touchdowns, which looked great. He passed 13 for 20 for 144 yards and an interception, so I don't want to sit here and say he's like the next thing since sliced bread, but with how bad the Saints are and how many holes they have to fill, is there a realistic chance that Tyler Shuck is a starting quarterback for the Saints next season?
It's like they found something. I don't know
what it is.
I think that's what it is. There's something there. They don't know what though. TBD. My answer is TBD. I don't know. There's something there though. I think you're right. I think when they drafted him, many people are like, and then he was playing. They're like, okay, good for this, whatever Make-A-Wish thing we have going on for the Saints. But then you watch him play and you're like, all right, that doesn't look awful. That's not like the best quarterback I've ever seen, but I've definitely seen worse. So it's like, what do we do with this? So maybe that's my answer. That's not a great like hot take or very firm at all.
No, but I didn't know if you had any firm opinions on it because I don't.
I'm just kind of like, maybe, I don't know. I
don't either. It's something.
You could.
You could. I think that's the entire mantra of the Saints. Yep. Okay. Steelers-Ravens. Steelers win this game 27-22. And I'm going to start out by asking this question. Alan, are we hitting the panic button on Lamar Jackson? As a multi-winning MVP, this season just has not been great for him really at all. And in fact, looking at the quarterback index rankings, Lamar Jackson this season has actually fallen out of the top 20 quarterbacks. He's currently ranked quarterback 23 on NFL.com in their quarterback index rankings. That's not good for, is he hurt? Is his play starting to...
That's what it is.
You think he's hurt?
I think it is. If you go all the way back to the beginning of the season when they were talking about like the injury report and they like famously left him off, like didn't have him on there, and then he showed up randomly on a Saturday and they're like, oh whoops, our bad, totally forgot that he was hurt. I think he is dealing with something, and I don't want to like start a conspiracy, but I do think it is hurting him and his ability to be mobile. I noticed it on a few even like scrambles where old Lamar would have easily gotten around or made a move or like made a bigger play. There's just no threat to him breaking anything right now.
No.
And that was, I would say, damn near 70% of his game. I know people are gonna like hand me about that if you're Ravens fans, but I know he can throw. But like that was the threat for Lamar. Like at any point, if you're not watching him, he's gonna house it on you. Oh, and by the way, and he has a cannon, so if you bring a safety down to do anything, now he's gonna throw it over your head. And they're just not having to do that or bring anybody down, which is making it really hard for them to stretch the defense, which is everything is now playing in a box. And now you can stop Derrick Henry. And now you can do all these things, which is making them like really easy to defend. It's like it's funny, like how much rides on very small things in the NFL to be like dynamic or not. And this is one of those things. And that's what I think it is.
This is, I've seen some people say, like, are we starting to see the Cam Newton like trajectory where it's like you start to see the fall off and it's not coming back? That sucks. And I don't think we're there just yet. I think that next season is going to be, if he's playing like this next season, then maybe we could start having that conversation. I don't want to overreact, and I think that probably is too early of a conversation to have.
Was that this year or the year before when he said he was like losing weight? Was that this offseason?
I think that was it was one of the two. I don't.
It was one of those.
One.
Yeah, I think this has been circling. You can almost read the tea leaves. Like, all right, I got to lose some weight. I don't have that step, or something's hurting. I got to get back. Or
But
I
this has
don't
always
know.
been my problem with Lamar, like genuinely, like, and I've said this, like, I don't think Lamar Jackson will ever win a Super Bowl, and I firmly am of the belief that that is the truth. But I've said in years past what my biggest gripe with Lamar Jackson. I'm not a Lamar Jackson believer. I get it. He's won the MVPs. He's great. My biggest qualm with him was his ability to throw the ball and be a natural pocket passer, because at some point in time, his legs are not going to be able to be the main attribute that they can lean on to win games. And if this season is any indication, it's starting to show. And that's always been Lamar's game, is his ability to extend the pocket, his ability to move with his legs. When you take that away from him and you force him to be a traditional pocket passer quarterback, it wasn't going to work. And to his credit, I know he listens to the show. He heard me. And over the last couple seasons, he's really stepped up his ability to pass the ball. I really do think that. However, to be a natural like pocket passing quarterback is still not in his repertoire, and I think it's showing here, and that's a huge part of their problem. And it's really showcasing it for really since that pseudo injury that probably is a real injury is playing a part in why this is all shaken down the way.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL's very much gone away from statues back there at quarterback. Even people that we consider quote unquote statues, even like a Joe Burrow, you're gonna say, oh, he's maybe not that. He can scoot. He's an athlete.
Aaron Rodgers ran in a touchdown.
Yeah, we're the days of just standing back there and hoping that your tackles hold on for dear life forever are gone, because the game has changed. The defense is quicker. They're so talented. The rules have changed. You can't get away with much. There's so much that is like, it just makes it really hard that you have to be dynamic in, from your quarterback. So you have to be able to move. I think what Lamar was he could really move and scare people. And yes, quarterbacks now can move when they need to. Even Josh Allen, as much as he likes to run the ball or, he picks his spots. Like, he's not always scrambling, always running. Like, he'll extend plays and then make a laser throw to somebody. And Mahomes the same way, or, Burrow the same way, or any of those quarterbacks. They don't have to, because they have an arm. And I think what you're alluding to is, which I agree with you wholeheartedly. Like, I don't think he is as talented as a passer to like get away with it. And we've talked about it on the show. You rarely see aging running quarterbacks. You rarely see a quarterback that is primarily a runner play for a very, very long time. And listen, windows open and close. You're kind of seeing, do we have windows closing in the NFL? Are some teams rebuilding now? Or, and for the Ravens, I don't know where they go, because it's not like you can fall back on anything else with Lamar other than his legs. So I don't know. I think this is going to be an interesting time for the Ravens, but if I'm in their camp, I'm like, nothing looks great in my mind if I look at this team.
I agree with that. On the flip side of the ball, Aaron Rodgers said maybe us winning this game means you guys will shut the hell up for a week. That was a quote from Rodgers.
Who is everybody talking to?
I don't know.
Is it just reporters?
Let's not act like Rodgers doesn't love the attention in the spotlight. Right. Like, let's not pretend that you don't like everybody clamoring over you all the time. You're Aaron Rodgers. This is what, up until this last postseason, you have been the topic of conversation every offseason. You love it. You live for it. Don't act like you don't.
Yeah.
Last piece of news on this. If the Bengals had won their game against the Bills this week, they're still a long shot, but potentially vying for that playoff berth that we'd kind of discussed earlier. Dude, now it seems kind of like the Steelers are going to win the AFC North. I mean, they're currently the front runners. They beat up on the Ravens. Mike Tomlin, man, always exceeding our expectations for a team that nobody has faith in. And here he is doing it again.
Yeah, it's looking that way for the Steelers. They end with, now we just talked about the Dolphins, but they get the Dolphins, Lions, Browns, Ravens. Not anything where you're like,
pretty doable.
For sure, given they are going to do it, but it is a little bit more favorable. Like, I think they're going to lose to the Lions, so they got to go 3-1 here, and one of them is against the Ravens, which would all but shut the door, because you need that one, because right now they're like 2 games up because they have the tiebreaker and their game up in the standings. So I think it's all going to come down to that final week against the Ravens, and it's going to be like a play to get in type situation is how I see that playing out. But yeah, I was really rooting for the Bengals, because this division is just so ripe for the taking, because nobody wants it.
I know.
Nobody wants it. But I was reading something about Ravens Steelers, and it was Tomlin and Harbaugh, that they have split the last, like, I guess if they played the last 30 times, it was like 15-15. And somebody joked in the comments and was like, they're literally just trying to keep each other employed. Like, you take this one, I'll take that one. You do this one, I'll do that one. And it's like these two teams are just kind of handing it off to each other. And so like there was prime opportunity for the Bengals, but it seems like that's all done. So I would say, obviously the Steelers with a game up, it's hard to say they can't with 4 left, especially one of those against the Ravens, which I would expect them to win. I would assume the Ravens at some point are just going to have to start shutting some guys down because it looks like they're just banged up. I don't see how they keep rolling these guys out, but we'll see what happens.
Let's talk Broncos, Raiders. Broncos win this one 24-17. And I'm going to start by saying this, Alan. I've been going to the gym. I've been working out. I've been trying to get my fat lard into shape. And so I go to this gym. There's a fan of the show, actually, that goes to the gym. And he's a Broncos fan. And, he saw me in the locker room here today. I was at the gym.
Naked?
And neither of us were naked. I was pretty close. I was in my underwear.
Just never know.
And I think he did lick his lips, but he wanted to. Sorry, no, he listens. He wanted to boast to me about the Broncos' victory yesterday, and I'm just going to kind of share my reply with you. The Broncos are leading the AFC West, and they will be going to the playoffs this year. But I'm still not bought in on the Broncos. That's how I started this conversation. Okay. And then he went on this rant about how they're 11-2 and they're killing it, etc., etc., etc. And I told him, I said, my issue is this. I said, it's the offense. I said, in particular, it's Bo Nix has not played consistently. And then he goes, it doesn't matter if he's played consistently. He has been doing tremendous in the fourth quarter. And I said, okay, he's a fourth quarter hero who has gotten it done when, they needed him to do it the most. They wouldn't even be in that situation if he didn't have to play hero ball, and he just played better throughout the entirety of all of these games in which the Broncos are winning. The identity of the Broncos team is their defense. I think that Broncos fans would largely agree. Their defense is the reason why they are 11-2 and they're doing so well. Their defense is really fucking good. But you let the Raiders, who are one of the worst, offenses, not defenses, worst teams in the NFL with a terrible offense, put up 17 points against you. And that was without Geno Smith for the full game because he left, and then they brought Super Bowl winning quarterback Kenny Pickett in to help him because Geno left. So, all's to say, I think the Broncos are fraudulent. And I get it. They're going to the playoffs. They should go to the playoffs. Their offense is not where I want them to be in order for me to feel comfortable about them as a team. And in large part, it's because of Bo Nix's play. So that's my spiel here on the Broncos and the Raiders. There's nothing to take away from the Raiders other than Brock Bowers is the GOAT. But the Broncos, man, I get it. They're 11-2. I'm not sold on them.
Yeah, I mean I think you hit the nail on that. It's the defense that's carrying them. Like nobody's gonna say Bo Nix is the reason that they are like he's saving them.
You would be crazy to say that.
Playoff. If you took Bo Nix off this team and put any other quarterback, any other top 10 quarterback, you're like, we're probably going to get a little bit more production if you just objectively look at the statistics or advanced statistics from everybody on the team. So I think that is where we're at with this team. But I think you're absolutely right. Like they score when they need to. That's fine. I'm not impressed with Bo Nix. His QBR kind of fleshes that out. He's a mid-tier quarterback. That's what the NFL is saying he is with that. And people can like poo-poo the QBR or whatever, but I think it's a good overall look at like, hey, how are things looking for you this year? How are you playing this year? And the fact that his defense is probably giving him more opportunities than most humans in the NFL this year, and he still is only able to muster that amount of points with that team, is fine. Like, but this is where I think Denver is going to. I think when the playoffs start, that's when we're going to see.
They're going to sputter. They're going to sputter.
You're going to see exactly what they can do. Yeah or nay. Maybe he'll turn it on. Maybe he'll flip another switch, but that is where it's going to show up because everybody's coming to play then. This isn't like a random week whatever against the Raiders.
Who would you rather have as a quarterback for the Broncos right now? Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence?
Probably still Bo Nix.
Okay, me too.
Probably still Bo Nix. I don't no shade to Trevor, but I mean, still
Bo Nix or Trevor Lawrence with a haircut.
Maybe.
Get you a little bit more interested.
Maybe we'll see. I mean, okay. He's just. I think he's not even top 10 in touchdowns thrown. He's it's just it's right. He does what he needs to do, which is fine. And so, I think two things can be true at once. Which this is okay. I'm going to go on just a quick rant.
Go ahead.
I cannot stand the quote unquote meat writing that NFL fans do over their respective quarterback. I'm a Chiefs fan. I will let you know when I think Pat sucks. I'm not going to say he's perfect all the time. But what's so funny is whether they win or lose, the first thing NFL fans would do would be like, oh, but my quarterback, he's like doing so well. Like Josh Allen loses. Oh, but Josh Allen, like he did so good. They're just letting him down. Like, okay, you're a fan of the team in totality. Stop blowing another grown man meat because you really want him to be the messiah of your team. Just shut the hell up. Just shut up.
Could you not argue that they are the messiah of their team, though?
No, he's not.
Who, Josh Allen?
No, Bo Nix.
Okay. No, I agree with that.
I get it, but I guess here's my thing. I have a hard time with that because, like, you're a fan of the team. Yes, he's the quarterback on your team, but it should be about the team. You lost. Who cares how good your quarterback looked if you lost? That's always been a pain point for me.
Did anybody in particular strike a nerve to make you think this?
So I felt this all the time, but we definitely have somebody in our backyard that loves to spout. I think he texted one week, Bo Nix has arrived or is legit or is something. And I'm like, who the fuck cares? Go to your random Broncos chat and chat with all your other Bronco nerds about it. The free world does not give a shit if Bo Nix has quote unquote arrived. And by the way, we've already established nobody arrives in week fucking 15 of the NFL season when you have like one of the easiest second halves of the schedule ever. No offense to the Broncos. They are the AFC West champs. They deserve that. But it is not because Bo Nix is some world-beating quarterback that is getting there. He's like on the group project, and they've asked him to like sign their names all at the end, and that's it. Like, it's not. I guess it just is one of the more annoying things about sports in general is that when people go off on these random tangents, like, okay, then you're just a fan of Bo Nix, not the Broncos then, or just shut the fuck up.
If anything, you should be more of a fan of Pat Surtain and like that defense than Bo Nix, which is hard to put an identity on a defensive player. Not to say that like the Browns don't do it with Myles Garrett and TJ Watt with the Steelers, et cetera, but it's hard to sit like when your quarterback is not the reason that you're winning games and you're sitting there very adamantly stating that like he's the best. It's like, no, actually he's not.
The last time you played the Raiders, they scored 10 points. Just shut the fuck up.
Sick. God. Okay. I want to finish this game that we started though. And Yeti, he said he needs to hear a healthy fuck that bitch. So if you want to go ahead and give him that, Alan.
Well, he wants fuck the Broncos. That's what that is.
Oh, fuck the Broncos. I thought we were talking fuck that bitch for Bo Knox.
No. That's very common thing. I know it's probably is, but in the AFC West, it's always FTR, FTB, FTC, fuck the Chiefs, fuck the Broncos, fuck the Raiders. Nobody cares about the Chargers, so we don't say it.
Yeah, they don't get their own. Okay, Bo Nix or Sam Darnold to play for the Broncos?
Right now, Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold, okay.
I'm doing that in the hopes that Charlie's listening.
Yeah, I figured. Bo Nix or Bryce Young?
Ooh, that's interesting. Bryce. Okay, so I was using Scotty's barometer. Is it Bryce Young when he's expected to win, or Bryce Young when nobody's watching at like noon on a Sunday when they're only a regional game with no national telecast?
I think I'm going to take the latter there because I think that I can't speak for all Broncos fans. I'm not sitting here believing that the Broncos offense is going to be anything great. So we'll say the expectations are relatively low for them offensively.
Okay. Yeah. Give me Bryce Young.
Okay. Bo Nix or Shador?
Bo Nix.
Okay. I was trying to give the Broncos fans something to hang their hat on.
No, listen, their team in total is good, but this because everybody's hell-bent on making their quarterback to be like the next messiah. Like, just you have a good team, let it be that. You don't have to like pump and dump these quarterbacks like they're some meme stocks. Like, just shut up.
Okay, last one. Bo Nix or Jackson Dart?
Jackson Dart.
Okay, me too. I love
wait. Jackson Dart before the 10 or after the 10?
After the 10.
Yeah, Jackson Dart.
Okay. All right. We got the rivalry of the week, the Packers and the Bears. The Packers historically have owned the Bears, and this game was no different. 28-21. We are a Bears podcast this season, Alan, and the Bears beat the Bills. We were so ecstatic. It was awesome. Bear down, man, and in a bad way. This sucked. I had the Bears winning this game. It was a close game. But it wasn't what we had hoped. We really hoped the Bears were going to come in and racketeer the Packers into sadness. And Ben Johnson, I knew this was going to happen. I could see it coming from a mile away. If the Packers won, I think this was going to happen no matter what, by the way. But the Packers did win. And when Ben Johnson became the head coach for the Bears in his presser, he said, Ben Johnson was with the Lions, he said, I liked owning the Packers twice a year. And he said that in his presser, and I go, that's going to come to bite you in the ass. And now it's already being floated around saying, like, he's so excited to own the Packers and with, being the Bears head coach, and it didn't come to fruition. So I was like, you shouldn't have said that, Ben, because you gave everybody some ammunition to just talk shit on you. Overall, good game. It was a good game.
Yeah, it was a great game. It was teetering on blowout for a second.
It was
like kind of life support for the Bears there for just a moment, because you're like, are they just gonna let this one? But they picked themselves up, man. I thought that really the biggest letdown was that secondary. I felt like the Bears secondary on a couple of those really long touchdown throws, 45 yards, 41 yards, 23 yards, like that's not good. They need to clean that up in a hurry, because Love was just exposing that secondary and floating those balls to those wide receivers. So it's just like, I don't know. That's where it was for me. I thought it was a good game. Sure. I thought it was that Bears defense did not look as dominant as they should have, but it's at Lambeau. You kind of expected it to go that way.
Here's my my outlook for the Bears the rest of the season. I'll start there. Caleb Williams is inconsistent. I've said this before, and I hope that they focus on that this offseason. Whether the Bears end up with a wild card spot or whatever happens with the Bears, I'm not putting any stock into the Bears going all the way. I'm not putting anything into saying that the Bears are going to be anything crazy for the remainder of the season. What you're doing is you're trying to build a dynasty. And for the Bears, I think that it's going to come. But the thing that concerns me is that consistency from Caleb Williams. What they need to do this offseason is really get him more comfortable with his pocket presence. As far as I think he's got great pocket awareness, but being able to make his reads quicker is something that I haven't seen Caleb Williams be able to do. It's like if he looks at his one read, if he doesn't have it, then he's scrambling and trying to make an ad hoc play downfield. And I want to see the development continue for Caleb Williams. And to be honest with you, Alan, I think we will. I think, I'm not concerned about it, but that's just something I've seen throughout this entirety of the season from a Bears perspective. So for them, I think regardless of how the rest of the year shakes out, you're in a really good... You have to be optimistic as a Bears fan. And as a Bears fan this season, and as a Bears podcast, I am optimistic about their future. I think they're in good hands. I think Ben Johnson knows what he wants, and I think that we're going to see next season even stronger than this season. Yeah. So you wanted to sell hope, and I think that's what the Bears did this year.
Yeah, I know there was some hand wringing because we picked the Bears. We picked the Bears before the season. We were just like, what team are we going to adopt? So we have to see it through that we are a Bears podcast. I think next year you got to see it from Caleb Williams. You got to see something. I think he definitely has like the talent to do it. It's just something's not clicking as far as like him seeing the defense, reading it correctly, whatever it is. Like some of the throws are inconsistent. They just need to simplify things even more. We need to see a jump, I guess. I don't want to simplify to be like it's a bad thing, but they just need to see a jump from him next year. That's the thing they have to have.
I agree.
The second thing is the Bears. The second thing is the Bears season's really going to come down to these last 4 games. They got a one they can't drop against the Browns, and then they get Packers, Niners, Lions. And I think for right or wrong, as a Bears podcast, it's going to come down to these last 4 games, how people will look at this season. It was great that they were able to say they were first in the NFC for 1 week.
And then they went to the 7th round.
They dropped to like the 7th seed. So it's like, okay, but these next 4 games, they got to get the Browns and they got to get the Packers at home. I think the other 2, whatever they should, they might be able to beat the 49ers. I don't think anybody will fault them if they lose to the Lions. I think the Lions are really good, but I think they got to beat the Browns. They got to beat the Packers in this last 4 weeks.
I'm not even sold on the Packers, to be honest with you. I'm not.
No.
And like, I don't know what it is about the Packers, but I'm not sold on them as a team. And I don't know if it's Jordan Love. I don't know if it's just the inconsistency of that offense. It really is from an offensive viewpoint where I'm just like, I get it. They won this game against the Bears. The Bears have a decent defense, but like it feels like a roller coaster whenever I watch the Packers because you don't know what you're going to get. You don't know when the turn comes. You don't know when the drop is. You don't know when things aren't gonna click, and I feel like it happens more often than I expect them to for a Matt LaFleur ran offense with Jordan Love, who everybody was saying was this upper echelon talent that was gonna be the next Brett Favre / Aaron Rodgers, and here we are, and I haven't seen that yet. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's fair to say.
Yeah, I mean, he threw it. I mean, I think they're realizing I think most NFL teams are like running the ball is actually kind of nice. If you can run the ball and not have to worry about completing these passes, that actually works out well. I think for Love, it's just the inconsistency or the availability of the deep ball for them. Like I said, this game really just came down to that deep play. That's what it was. It was there. They took it. They kind of dared them to throw it. They didn't give their cornerbacks help in a lot of situations, and they got burned for it. And I think that's something the Bears need to evaluate moving forward, how they play that. But for the Packers, it's like, can you consistently do that? And I think we've seen when they can't, it looks awful. When they can, it looks pretty good, because then you can just do that, run Jacobs, and you feel great. But I just don't know if they can consistently do that. I think that's why the Packers are tough to trust still. I thought after they beat the Lions in week 1, I was like, oh, this is no brainer. This is going to be the number 1 seed in the NFC.
A lot of people thought that.
And I'm like, they might.
So sure.
They're going to be one of the top seeds, but I don't think anybody trusts them at all. And that's just the theme of this year. I don't think there's one team where you're like, every team's got it top to bottom. So it's just, these playoffs are going to be wild. Because one team
that I do think has it top to bottom is the Rams, my friend, and they won 45-17 against the Cardinals. This was just sadness. As a Cardinals fan, it's game over. I knew that. We knew that this was all done, and we'll come back to the Cardinals, but I want to start this conversation with the Rams. The Rams are currently leading the NFC West, but they are tied with the Seahawks, both of which are 10-3, and both which are great teams. The Seahawks and the Rams are both very good teams. Which one do you think is better,
Alan? I like the Rams.
I think the Seahawks.
Yeah, I think they just the weapons that they have when they're clicking on offense. That's just nobody wants any part of that. Their defense does good enough. I think that is a pretty talented defense in and of itself. They don't get as much publicity, I think, as they should. Sure. They're younger, but I think they're good. And I think this playoffs, I think you're going to see it. I would not be shocked if the Rams are the one team that runs just right through the NFC into the Super Bowl, and Stafford takes an NFL MVP with them, because this is the trajectory they're on. I think he's back on that. I think he threw 3 more touchdowns. I think he's at 35 touchdowns now for the season with 4
Chef's
picks.
Kiss, baby.
Yeah, that's what you want. I think they win these next couple games, and I think that's just going to pretty much just be it for the rest of the NFL. That's my favorite right now to take everything down.
Okay, me too. And I know they had the stinker against the Panthers last week, but I'm not writing too much into that. All right, let's pivot over to the Cardinals here for just a moment, Alan, because Jonathan Gannon, head coach for the Cardinals, he announced on Friday that Kyler Murray will not return for the rest of the season with his foot injury, and he's currently on IR. I don't think he's hurt. I think most people don't really think Kyler is that hurt. His pride's probably hurt, and as it should be. But let's not forget that, and this is where I'm speculating and saying the math ain't mathin', this was probably a month and a half ago when Kyler Murray first went out with his foot injury and was out for a week and then out for another week. And then there was speculation that he was practicing. There was tape of him on the sidelines, warming up, doing all this other stuff. And then all of a sudden he just got moved to IR. And I understand that there can be setbacks, but I'm not reading into that. I don't think there was. I think this was a very protected, let's just ghost bench him or soft bench him or whatever the terminology is, and move on from him and have Jacoby Brissett out. And to be quite honest with you, Jacoby Brissett has looked way better for that offense than Kyler did all season long. And so I'm not complaining about it. I'm not mad about it. I would rather have Jacoby Brissett out there. But the question now at hand is Kyler Murray's future. For all intents and purposes, I think he's done with the Cardinals. I think that's a foregone conclusion for most at this point. I'm fine with it. Could not be more happy about it. But what does the quarterback situation for the Cardinals look like? And Yeti had kind of already he jumped the gun here and messaged and said Kyler Murray's going to look really good in a Jets jersey next year. So I got to ask you, is Yeti onto something? Is there another fit that you could see Kyler Murray going? And let's take it a step further before we even maybe go to Kyler Murray. Should the coaching staff just be done and get Jonathan Gannon, Drew Petzig, the entire coaching staff? Should they just clean house? And if they're going to redo the quarterback room, should they also just go find a new coaching regime at the same time?
I don't know. I'm not as sold on the coaching part yet. You could talk me into that, but I'm not as sold on that. But I
would
agree
like
with you.
that.
Yeah, I bet you would. It's always fun to just hit the reset button and be like, don't like, move on. I would see, I guess if I had to bet, yeah, I would say it's probably for the best that they do that. I just don't know if the organization is to that point yet. I see what you're saying. If you're going to blow it up, just blow everything up and let's just move on and start anew. Kyler to the Jets is funny. Like, what are the Jets doing? They're just going to keep cycling through these quarterbacks that are done and just If you got one, can you be a warm body?
Let's think about it realistically. And maybe Yeti's trying to hide behind the fact that his Raiders organization also needs a quarterback, and he doesn't want to think that Kyler Murray would go there.
We should do a Kyler Murray bet. That if it's like Raiders, Yeti has to
get a jersey,
has to buy a Kyler Murray Raiders jersey and wear it.
Yeah, I mean, think like what teams are going to need a quarterback next year, and what would be a good fit? The Jets, obviously. The Raiders are going to be one.
Yeah.
The Colts, I don't see because we kind of discussed them already. The Saints are an interesting one, but they can't afford anything.
I think the other elephant in the room is like through the draft. I don't know if there's like that many intriguing quarterback prospects.
There's not. I think Mendoza's kind of leading the charge for that.
Yeah, you don't have like a generational talent or somebody you're like, oh well, let's see. I would be willing. I don't know. That's interesting.
Well, and Yeti actually went and did the homework for us and posted here on the chat. He said Las Vegas Raiders are plus 250 as the favorites to land Kyler Murray next year, followed by the Jets at plus 300, the Saints at plus 400, and the Browns at plus 500.
I think we probably could have mathed that out ourselves.
Yeah, but I'm glad that he went and got it all for us.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm any one of those teams, and if I'm a fan of any one of those teams, and you sign Kyler Murray, you're like, ugh. Okay.
Yeah. I got him on roster, and I'm not excited about it. But I also think that we should fire the coaching staff. Drew Petzig is a terrible offensive coordinator. I have been saying that the entirety of the season. And the fact that Jonathan Gannon continues to protect him and they pretend that nothing is wrong is part of the reason why I'm like, okay, then if you don't want him to fall on the sword, you fall on the sword too, and you're both done. And that's where I'm at with this entire coaching regime. I think he's a freaking goob. I don't like him. I don't respect him as a head coach. And I think he's just kind of one of those guys that most people don't respect for good reason because he doesn't deserve their respect. So get them all out of here, fire him, move on from Kyler Murray. I don't give a shit if you roll Jacoby Brissett out next year as a starting quarterback. I'm fine with it.
Jacoby.
He's better than Kyler.
So the funny thing is, like, I felt like the offense is like Michael Wilson should probably be thanking everybody.
That's what I'm saying. Michael Wilson was a nobody. He was, I mean, I knew who he was because he's on my team, but most people, if you were to ask him, who's Michael Wilson and what team does he play for, you'd have no fucking clue.
Yeah.
But now he's got relevance, and I'm like, oh, they saw something in him, and he's finding a lot of success. He would have never found that if Kyler Murray was still the head coach.
Yeah.
Or the quarterback.
Yeah, he had 142 yards receiving and 2 touchdowns again this week.
Yeah, he's been great.
So when did Kyler go out?
God, week 5, I think.
Oh, he's been out for a while.
5 or 6.
So over the last 4 weeks, there was one outlier against the Bucs where he only had 36 yards receiving, but 185 yards receiving, 118 yards receiving, 142 yards receiving, and 2 touchdowns this game. So it's like, I mean,
we got receiver, we got it. And when Marv comes back, like
there's talent.
I
don't know. That's why I was saying the coaching thing. I don't know if I'm as sold on because it's like, okay, was it just Kyler that was completely like hamstringing him, and did the organization like pressure them like, no, you got to start Kyler? And now they're like, okay, well, we're going to talk to his agent. If we can just fake an injury, can we just put him on IR and then move on? They're like, okay, yeah, do that because that looks better for us than admitting fault. You know what I mean? There's always that window dressing to decisions that are made. So it could be some of that too. So that's why I'm saying, like, let's see what this looks like. I say give it one more year. Because this offense looks like it has potential. It looks like the top can come off at any point. And I'm like, that's intriguing to me.
I just don't think Drew Petzig is the right answer. I'm still
that could be. You could be right. You could be right. It's just now that you don't have the dead weight of Kyler Murray. Very little weight.
Prestige level 50 Kyler Murray.
Let's do it.
Chiefs Kingdom, baby. It has finally crumbled.
It's over.
Alan. It's done.
They're never gonna be the playoffs. They're never gonna win another Super Bowl. It's over.
I don't think you fully believe that, but the Chiefs did lose this to the Texans 10-20. I'm going to turn this over to you as the Chiefs fan and let you run with this.
Yeah, I mean, the storyline is after the first play of the game, they were down 4 starting O linemen. That's a tough look. They could not run the ball. made them very one-dimensional. When they had to throw the ball, it was basically, I think Yeti said it yesterday in the chat, it was Mahomes scrambling, Mahomes finding somebody, Mahomes throwing it to that person, and then them dropping the ball. And that was rinse and repeat. Thornton dropped a 50-yard touchdown pass, hit him right in his hands. Kelsey had a pass hit his hands that ended up being an interception. Rashee Rice dropped a pass that would have kept the drive going as they were trying to like score towards the end of the game. So you have that piece of it, which isn't great, which, I mean, the Chiefs offensive line was needing to be addressed, and they started to, and then Simmons broke his hand and now he was out for surgery. Cataclysmic amount of errors from an injury front, but injuries happen. But
They do.
to the O-line is like, that is a death wish. You can't survive that. That is pretty much just put the horse down to pasture in the back, because that's pretty much it. But I question things from the coaching perspective. I know we talk about Nagy. I think the offense has done nothing to help itself from hey, here's how we go win and score. A large part of that does come down to the O-line. So this is where I'm going to footnote this with, if you don't have anybody blocking, it makes it damn near impossible to do anything, which is what we've seen this year. Yeah. It's been hero ball pretty much from Mahomes. That's all it's had to be. I think he was almost the leading rusher in this game again, or he was.
That's not where you want him to be, by the way.
No, and how much we said at the beginning of the season, he can't keep being the leading rusher, and then they didn't go pick up a running back, and then the line died, which in hindsight, kind of good. Maybe you didn't go get the running back.
Go get the running back. Yeah, you didn't spend
the line's
any.
Dead anyways. I think that's part of it. Also, just like late game decision making. I think Andy Reid was panicking towards the end. They went for it. It was a tie game. They had held the Texans to 17 total yards in the half or the quarter. It was like basically they weren't doing shit. And he went for it on fourth down on his own 40, 35, 40. It was somewhere in there. And it was a tie game. I'm like, it's not like you were even down. Why were you even going for that? You basically just gave him a short field to take the lead. And now you put your whole team behind the 8 ball for no reason. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Well, in Yeti kind of, he beat me to it a little bit. He said, I have to ask, does Matt Nagy have more of an influence in the play calling? I don't even want to talk about the play calling per se, but Nagy's really the one that I want to talk about from a Chiefs fan perspective. Is I'm trying to find a silver lining. I'm trying to sell you something to potentially get happy or excited about. Would you... I'm going to propose this theory to you, and it's not going to be the theory that you want, because the alternative is winning the Super Bowl or going to the playoffs and making a deep run in the playoffs, and that's always what every team hopes for. But because the Chiefs are no longer doing that, and the Chiefs are now out of the playoff picture, could one argue that this is actually potentially maybe the best thing for the Chiefs? Because now that they have sputtered a little bit, you can move on from some guys that maybe otherwise were just a victim of the success that the Chiefs have had. And who I'm talking about very obviously is Matt Nagy. Yeah. I don't think Matt Nagy's a good offensive coach. I think, and I don't know what your perception of him is, but could this now allow the Chiefs to move on and say, okay, you weren't it? Because this, and really what I look at this is, when Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, this offense looked a hell of a lot better and different. And I understand that the personnel was different as well, so that certainly plays a part. But
yep.
I think Eric Bieniemy was a better offensive coordinator than Matt Nagy has been for you guys. Would you not want to just say, okay, now that we have an excuse to move on from this guy, where we can sit here and say, we didn't get it done, we need to make changes, we didn't go to the dance, we didn't get close to the dance, we're going to move on from these guys and be able to go get the guys that could help us get there? Is that something that is in your mind whatsoever? Or
I would like to. Okay. I would like to be done with Nagy. I think that's what everybody, if you ask any Chiefs fan, like, we've basically been like held together with tape and glue, and then just Mahomes go make a play at the end for us, and then we'll call it good. And you can only live like that for so long. And where other teams have gotten better is like along the lines, like in the division, outside of the division. That's where it is. And I think the play calling is not changed. They still run like the same shit over and over again. And it's like, okay, you can't run the ball. The safeties are sitting deep. So you do all this like window dressing, try to do these screens. Like nobody's falling for that, because there's no threat deep because you cannot run the ball. I think that's my problem, is there's no threat to run the ball. There's no commitment to run the ball. Pacheco is not very good. Since he broke his leg, he's been trash. And they're just not playing the guys that they should be. They have Brashard Smith, a rookie running back who's explosive, who can take it to the crib if he finds a crease, but that's not Pacheco. It's like you need to find a different way to win, and they just don't find that different way. As far as like who calls the plays, it's funny because that's very much the Andy Reid, what is it, like post-game presser, as they ask him about the plays. And if it's he'll give, if the play calling goes well, they'll be like, Matt Nagy did a great job calling the plays. If the play calling goes poorly, Andy Reid will be like, yeah, I need to call better plays. So it's like, okay, who the fuck is actually calling the plays? Because now we don't know. He's obviously protecting.
He's protecting him.
And Schefter came out a few hours ago and was basically saying, like, reports are the Chiefs aren't going to make any big coaching changes during this offseason based on all this. I'm like, Christ in heaven. We're just going to do this again. We're just going to keep going.
Do you think that Travis Kelce not retiring hindered this team?
No, I don't think Travis Kelce was the problem.
Okay.
You could point to that one play where he dropped it as being the problem, but I mean,
I'm not even talking this game in specifics, but just throughout the entirety of the season.
No, I think I think this Chiefs team would have been worse without him. He's still leading the team in receptions and yards. He's got 5 touchdowns. Like he's doing what he can, but there's other pieces that I have a problem with. I do think the lack of development with Worthy is a problem. I think they use him on these like little screen out things.
He's like a gadget player.
Yeah, like where's the deep? Where is he going to go take the top off? That's been Tyquan Thornton, who you picked up off the Raider or off the Patriots practice. Who he just kind of was let go to the wind, and you just kind of plopped him in, and that's where the deep balls have been going with success. Even though he dropped one this week, but that's where Mahomes finds success. So there's something not right there. And then Rashee Rice dropping footballs is now becoming a problem. His head, they all seem like very uninterested.
I think he's got PTSD from the crash, and every time like he's about to catch a ball, he thinks of the crash.
True. Yeah, that's probably it. Now that being said, like long-term evaluation for the Chiefs, if you're a bandwagon Chiefs fan, it was great seeing you. I'm sure you'll come back on at some point later. For the mainstay Chiefs fans, like this is the beauty of sports. We all look at it in a vacuum. Guess what? There's a next season, and there's a next season after that, and there's a next season after that.
It is really nice.
Next season after that, like there's no end. You as a fan, you just keep going. You keep rooting for them. I think that's what makes sports great. Like, and that's what I was saying last year. Like, why I was envious of like where the Broncos were, because like it's fun when you are part of something that you're building. When you're having to stay on top, you're like, Christ, like we got to do this, we got to do that. Nobody fucking likes you. You're not getting any calls.
See, and I think that's the nice thing is like now that the Chiefs have kind of sputtered, I consider myself to be pretty analytical when I'm looking at teams as far as like I have some bias on certain teams and certain things, I will admit. But I was labeled a Chiefs hater, and it was like, I don't hate the Chiefs. I hate the fact that they're winning so much, and it sucks. But I don't hate the Chiefs. And now that they've kind of come down a little bit, it's like I feel like I can have more of a conversation without getting attacked because I want to have a conversation about the deficiencies that are the Chiefs.
2020, I watched the Chiefs win the Super Bowl against the 49ers, and as a lifelong Chiefs fan, that was it for me. Everything else after that is gravy and will continue to be gravy. From my perspective, I don't get too high or too low on a lot of these things. I have zero control over this shit. I make fun of people that say we, and they're referring to their teams and like, oh yeah, we got, okay, motherfucker, you're sitting at home watching too. You actually haven't done anything either. But I think they have a good core. They have good young talent. I think they got to make some serious decisions about the O-line and D-line for the Chiefs have been an issue for the last few years and are now showing up in the worst way. They can't put pressure on the quarterback, and they can't protect the quarterback still.
Yeah.
I mean, in basics of football, regardless of what the jersey is, if you can't do those two things, you're probably not winning very many games.
That is true. All right, we're going to skip over the Thursday night football game because it was Cowboys-Lions. Lions win 44-30. I don't really think there's a lot to unpack here. I think the Lions...
Other than the Cowboys season being over. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, which, oh no, I'm so sad to see that. It makes me so sad. But let's move on to our, if you have any kids in the car, if you have any kids in the proximity, highly recommend you turn the volume down because we are presenting our Pab-Ass Bitch of the Week award. So, Alan, would you like to present your award for this week first, or would you like me to go first?
No, I'll go first. I like yours because I want to talk about yours a little bit. Okay. I have some thoughts. I think yours is right, by the way. I'm reading this and totally like doing a nice little tease, as we say in the biz. I like yours. I have some other things to talk about that are like tangentially related.
Yeah.
But I like that. So my Pab-Ass Bitch of the Week award is P. Diddy. If you haven't seen on Netflix, 50 Cent has come out with a documentary on P. Diddy, which basically highlights him as being this weirdo scumbag that is like maniacal, controlling, pretty much should just be.
I think it all checks the boxes of what we had kind of assumed based on everything.
50 Cent, I mean, I don't know if you've seen any like press around this. 50 Cent is basically just like showing everybody to how to be an actual hater of somebody else. Like, this is how you do it. You basically wait in the weeds, you hold on to all this evidence, and then when they start sinking, you just pile on and sink the ship even further. So shout out to 50 Cent for just being a hater of the year.
Is the document pretty good?
It's pretty good. But also in this, they kind of allege that Diddy planned the hits on both Tupac and Biggie, and that Diddy basically made Biggie's estate pay for the for the funeral and for all the costs of that. And so Diddy is just a weirdo. This is a fun spiral. Obviously, if you don't know, he was, indicted and he's in jail for like, I don't know, just weird shit. He's having freak offs at his house and recording people and drugging people to have sex and like just super weird dude. And so he's my pab-ass bitch of the week, P. Diddy.
I like it. I like the resurgence of P. Diddy. We hadn't been talking about him recently. His name we all knew the dark things that he did, but yeah. I'm good with bringing him up.
Yeah, go watch the documentary.
I do need to see it. Yeah,
there's some clips in it where they're basically saying like, here's the thing. What is P. Diddy known for? Anything?
His music?
Yeah, I can't even name you like a good P. Diddy song that I'm like, hey, fire up your Spotify and turn on some P. Diddy. I'm in the mood. But so that's my pab-ass bitch.
Love it. I appreciate you bringing that to the table, and I will bring mine now. My pab-ass bitch of the week award is Notre Dame. The entire university, particularly their college football program, but really just the whole university. So they didn't get into the college football playoffs. That was announced either last night or today. I don't remember which, but yesterday. So Notre Dame did not get into the college football playoffs, and then they refused a bowl game spot in the Pop-Tart Bowl, which first and foremost, Pop-Tart Bowl is a fucking awesome bowl. If you're going to go to a bowl game, that's one of the ones I want to go to because they got Pop-Tart mascots walking around. I heard that they were going to make them able to be like edible this year. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'd seen.
Yeah, they've done that in the past.
Yeah,
they actually make the mascot edible. They're actually having more flavors this year.
Yes, that's so freaking cool. That is a cool ass bowl game. And you as a Notre Dame refused a spot in a bowl game because you feel gypped that you didn't make the college football playoffs. So I have an idea for you, Notre Dame. You sack of shits. Join a conference, you crybaby ass little fucks. I'm so glad that not only that you didn't make the playoffs, but that I won't be forced to watch your stupid team again this season. You are the epitome of shit, and I hate you. And I'm really glad that you're not going to the playoffs, and I'm also equally as glad that you're not going to a bowl game. Grow up, join a conference. Screw you, Notre Dame. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
This is I like this.
I hate Notre Dame. I've always hated Notre Dame.
Yeah,
like
filled with hate.
They are somehow like over historically a ranked team that is pretty good, and they usually are decent. But the fact that they are not in a conference and they just get to waddle around and do whatever they want and have their own schedule and play whoever they want, it pisses me off. And until they join a conference, I will never, ever root for Notre Dame. Screw you.
This is so good. I mean, if you follow college football, very famously came down to Miami or Notre Dame, and Miami won the head-to-head with Notre Dame, and Miami got into the playoff, and Notre Dame was left out. I agree with. I like this take. This is hilarious. I will say I wanted to take this opportunity to be like, I also don't agree with, if you follow college football, anybody listening to this, the way the college football playoff works is it's based off the rankings. The committee seeds it. There's certain conference, whatever. It's just so weird. Like, I think college basketball does it pretty damn good, and I know they get the opportunity to have a shit ton more teams in there. But I think there's a plenty of opportunity to inject some of that. Like, so here's the thing: Duke won the ACC title game, and they had like a 7-5 record. Fucking put them in the playoff. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, put them in. Like, do it like college basketball. Like, somebody gets out because somebody else won the automatic bid from your conference. Like, that's how it should go. You should get the automatic bids. Then you go to the rankings and see like at large.
Could you
like,
imagine
who should
seeing
get it? Then
Duke in the playoffs?
Yeah, that'd be fucking hilarious.
That'd be awesome.
7-5 team. But I think it gives college fans more of an opportunity to be like, okay, we can just get in if we have a shit season, but we kind of, we're fluttering, but if we can make the conference title and get in, like, we have a shot. Like, that's how the rest of, playoff in the free world does it. You look at the NFL playoffs, like, win your division, you're in. Okay, cool. And then we look at these records. Oh, you're in here. There is no like voting or whatever, but the college football, here's my problem. It's so tied to money that it makes
100%. That's exactly
ugly.
What I was going to say.
It's all TV money. It's all conference money. Like, SEC wants to get so many teams in. The Big Ten's hand wringing because they want so many teams. Just Just fucking stop all that. It's so dumb. But I'm excited
but
that
how do you
they included like James Madison's in. They like the next two. So it's like, that's kind of sick. You get to see games you're not going to see. Like, that's what people want to watch. I don't want to fucking watch Oklahoma and Texas A&M again. Like, nobody wants to see that shit. Sure, they might be the top two, but we fucking watch that shit all year. Give me like Akron versus Alabama.
I mean, you could just watch like Temple Akron games on the side, but nobody's doing that because you have games like Texas Tech and Indiana.
I want to see games like I would boot up on like a video game, like teams you don't see go together. Like, let me do that.
Yeah, but then it's a blowout, and then people turn the TV off. And once again, it's all tied back to money, which is the root of the problem as far as the college football playoffs are concerned. Like that. That's just the name of the game, and I think that's why Notre Dame isn't in a conference, is because of the money situation.
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Join a conference. I don't care. Stop crying.
Anyways, like a lemming, I will watch it though. So
yeah, I will as well. All right, let's do Monday Night Football preview and get the heck out of here. We'll wrap this up very quickly. We have Eagles at Chargers tonight. Yep. Alan. Eagles are favored by 2.5 points, which I kind of thought that was a little bit lower. I was envisioning, like, if you told me 4.5 points, I'd be like, okay, like that's still a little bit lower.
Isn't Herbert out?
I don't know. Hampton's in. Amari and Hampton will be playing.
I saw that. Hold on. Let's see what the latest is.
The total over under at 41.5 points. So they're not projecting this to be like a high flyer of a game.
Oh, so he got a fractured finger in his non-throwing hand. Okay, so he's probably gonna play. He didn't miss. Okay. He might play. I don't know. I don't think he's ruled out. Who fucking knows? He's listed as questionable. Jesus Christ, this is great podcasting. Yeah, this was a weird line. The 2.5 seemed ugly. I would have almost thought, like you said, like 4, 5. Like I would expect the Eagles to be in there. They also don't have Jalen Carter in the middle, which if the Chargers are gonna just start beating the shit out of the middle of that defensive line,
they like to run the ball.
That if they keep, if they limit the amount of Eagles, this is what it's going to come down to. If they can limit the amount of the Eagles' possessions, like if they really shrink the game and force them to be efficient, which the Eagles have not been this year, that's going to be a problem. They're like a volume offense. They need a lot of cracks at it to get it going. And so if they can shrink the game, I think that's where you see the Chargers eat into that, and you see this being really close. But I think if they can't hold on to the ball and they let the Eagles just kind of do what they want, I don't think the Chargers have a good enough defense to hold up.
Who do you got winning?
Eagles.
Okay, I do too. I want the Chargers to win because I love watching Eagles fans squirm. Like it's probably one of my favorite things.
Here's the best part: if you're a diehard fan of a team, as soon as your team's out, this is the best because then you just hate watch everything.
Yeah, that's what I've been doing all year.
Fuck everybody. I hope everybody loses. It's the best.
Welcome to the party. I've been waiting in here for you since week 2, so I'm glad that you're
now the D-Gen me can come out because now I'm not worried about my team. It's like, I just want to see chaos. So I'm with you. I think the Chargers could do it. I mean, if there's any, if you look at the head coaches head to head, like, are you going to take Harbaugh or are you going to take Sirianni? Like
Harbaugh.
Yeah. So X's and O's wise, you think there's an advantage there. So I'll see what he cooks up. This is at home. He loves to cook things up. He knows he's got the attention on him. We'll see what the Chargers can do.
We'll see. Okay. Well, that is all the time that we have here today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have made it through the show, you tuned in here at the very end, whatever the case might be, we genuinely appreciate you joining us. Hit the subscribe button wherever you're at. Go on Spotify, go on Apple Podcasts, go hit the subscribe button, hit the 5 stars. It really does mean the world to a small but growing podcast such as ourselves, and we do genuinely appreciate it. Alan, anything else?
That's it, baby.
All right. We love you guys. We
are
out.
If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you tune into our new releases every week on your favorite podcast app. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, and check out LeatherBrainz.com for all of your fantasy football needs. And remember, Brainiacs, a championship should be more than a fantasy.